There we go.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to get started, even though we're short a few reviewers at this time. I'll introduce them anyway, so you know who they are. You guys know Terry Schwartz, the director of the CUDC. Her work at the CUDC includes neighborhood and campus planning, commercial and residential design guidelines, stormwater management, and green infrastructure strategies. And I think we'll find that that's all pertinent to what we're some of our strategies today, as well as she's familiar with your work and was at your first review, so we'll be able to give good feedback on your progress. Iya Kupadadze is a Fulbright Scholar at Cornell University from Tbilisi. Her research focuses on sustainable building practices and the way that indigenous and traditional practices were sustainable long before people started using the term. So I think her work in the developing world as well as in sustainability is going to be pertinent for us today. Susie Maurer is a landscape designer and artist. She's currently with Virginia Burt, and formerly from D-Land Studio. You guys probably remember Susanna Drake, who came and gave a lecture here a couple years ago. That was Susie's office. And Sharon Davis Design, which Garpalia did a case study on the Kayonza Women for Women Opportunity Center. That was done by Sharon Davis's office. She has lived and worked in several sub-Saharan African countries, including Rwanda, Malawi, and Ghana. She was a project manager for the landscape of Madonna's boarding school in Malawi, the Raising Malawi Academy for Girls, and the project manager for the Women for Women Opportunity Center in Kayonza. Professor Bill Willoughby will be here around 3 o'clock today. He's the Associate Dean here at Kent State. He is a professor and Associate Dean, as well as alumnus of Kent. He has taught at many universities prior to being here at Kent with us. He's new this year, and he's lectured at many conferences. He has a strong interest in art and activism, so it would be very appropriate for what we're looking at today. Our Rwandan panel, you all know Jean-Michel Mannix. He's a Rwandan architect and a collaborator for this studio. But joining him for the international review is going to be Christian Benimana and Commode Dushimimana, who are both architects at Mass and professors at the Kigali Institute of Science and Technology. To our jurors, the students will introduce the projects themselves, but I just wanted to state briefly that the project is to investigate the site, culture, needs, and resources of Rwanda and design a 400-plus residential development with at least a portion allotted for low-income housing. Their sites are on the periphery of Kigali, but will be part of the urban fabric by 2020, as the population is set to double within a decade. They have been researching developing world topics and have assigned an activism to their project. They have written several individual papers, but the projects have been done in small groups. Today they will present their research, master plan, and some of the housing typologies, and they will start with a slideshow. Most of them will start with a slideshow and then move to boards where we can get feedback from the review. So thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Really excited.
And we'll let the Green Team Go take it away.
So we are Green Team Go, formerly Red Team Go. We're rebranding recently. And just give you a little background on Rwanda and the project in general. Rwanda is a fairly small country, about half the size of West Virginia, with a population of about 12 million, and that is set to double, as you just heard. And this is District of Kinyinya, and Old Green Circle is the master plan that we were working on. It is a very, very steep hillside, but one of the few buildable ones they have.
90% of their economy is generated by agriculture. The main exports of Rwanda, coffee and tea primarily. And currently, the land our site's built on is just primarily subsistence farming.
And that's actually a way that a large majority of Rwandans get their food is through the subsistence farming.
Rwanda has a couple ecological issues, which was pretty much the center of our research. The first being deforestation, which was my area of research. They also have erosion of hillsides and farmland, and then Gino researched the food security issue. As for deforestation, like I said, it's one of the major issues. The major cause of the deforestation is the fact that 90% of their wood is burned as fuel, and outside of the city, that's pretty much the only fuel source they use for most of their activity. The main problem caused by the deforestation is just the devastation of the soil throughout, and that can actually lead to problems with farming and everything. The nutrients are not replenished by the trees and not held together by the root systems, it can easily be washed away. The main solution to this that I kind of latched onto is the agroforestry process, which is the process of interplanting trees with the annual crops of a specific area. And this process not only rejuvenates the soil and lets it regain its nutrients, but it's also been seen to actually bolster the nutrient content.
And all this deforestation has also led to pretty bad erosion of their steep hillsides. Trees have very deep and complex root systems that keep soil in place. And the issue is every time they see a tree, they chop it down and farm over it and terrace it and whatever. So this is starting to lead to not only nutritionally and minerally fragile soil, but physically fragile soil as well.
Actually, what causes the erosion is the roots act, when during heavy rains, it acts as like a canal system almost in the soil that the water will follow and kind of guide its way through using the roots, but without the roots, it just has nowhere to go and just washes it out.
And then, like he said, the issue I was researching about is food security, and it's already a problem. About half their population is determined to be food insecure, which means they don't have ready available access to healthy and nutritious food. And this problem is compounded by the fact that the population is set to double, and they have no way to actually feed it. Picture here is actually what a typical subsistence farm looks like in Rwanda. They just take these hills and terrace them, and that'll just be the entire landscape. They really do need to work towards becoming a little more agriculturally self-sufficient. Importing stuff right now is very expensive for them. There aren't many, they are landlocked, so they can't just bring it in shipping containers. And there isn't a well-developed rail network yet, and so they rely on some of the few paved roads they have.
What we started with when we planned our master plan was we took the initial zoning master plan, and we noticed there were two main protected green park type areas on the site, but they were disconnected, disjointed. So what we looked at was finding a way to use our master plan to almost begin connecting them to each other, and that kind of developed to our concept of weaving green space with the infrastructure of the area.
And it also led to us wanting to do a continuous unbroken green space.
That started with initially just like an agroforestry, just green buffer at the bottom of the site to kind of protect the wetlands at the bottom of the hill. And that changed to deciding to put two zones in two corners of the site.
And the goal of this step was to help better integrate the green space with the actual urban fabric rather than just have bar.
What we then did was kind of try to find a way to start weaving them, which we connected the two zones, and then we used that X as a it was kind of a graph. It was two overpasses that would overpass it, and that was proving kind of an awkward, disjointed way. So what we ended up doing was looking at a project that actually Professor Mowers did an entry for in Colorado. It was a wildlife overpass. So what we did was we took that connection piece for the two zones and we lifted it up and ran our roads underneath it.
And then what we did, in order to pull down the green space that was on the upper part of the township, we added that strip to the right to pull it down, and then the other one on the left to further give it like a rotational symmetry.
This is our roads. adding in the blue arrows distinguish, we ended up taking those two strips on the sides and turning them into almost natural underpasses.
So that way you get a literal weaving of the green space throughout the site. And then finally, we established a road grid. The ones near the overpass were set at the same angle as the overpass to emphasize it, while the other ones are at that angle, so they actually form more of a regular grid. Because we did several iterations doing one all-slant to the others all perpendicular, and either these spaces between the roads would get awkward as you approach the overpass, or very, very angular as you got further away. And this we determined was the best combination of the two.
And then we just added a simple bar at the top, just kind of, we felt it brought it all together. Kind of looking at it. These are some sections, this one's under the overpass.
And this shows, under it, we're planning for a public market space. So that way it's going to be a very usable space, and it takes advantage of the large central walkway we've planned. And then this is one we cut through the underpass that shows the three main roads and the walkway going through. And then just another couple sections.
So that leads us to what we started doing with our, tried to do with our housing typologists is we wanted to take this concept of the weaving of green space and start to apply that integration of green space and nature with the buildings themselves in our housing. And I focused on the row house, and what I tried to do in this diagram was I took a, well, row houses generally don't have a yard, an expansive yard in them, and I kind of think that's an important part of a home is to have like a yard to have activity and everything. So what I did was I took a basic two-story plot with a yard. I pulled the second story up another story, opening up the what would have been the second story, and then I took the green space and put it on there almost like putting the yard on the second story itself. And what that did was I pulled the green space in to the stairwell area from the outside. And this is a nano wall, which is a giant sliding glass wall system. That way it creates an airlock between the main living space and what would be the open stairwell. There's just a kitchen, a bathroom, a living room on the first floor. The second floor, which is the yard, you could say, I programmed a dining area, like a nice outdoor dining area, but the true program is whatever the owner would actually like to program into the spot. And the third floor is probably my favorite part because it has 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, but it almost feels like a house within a house because of the way the exterior hallways and the exterior space works, along with the lattice. And this is just kind of like context of what the site development would look like in Aurora, the elevations. And these 2 sections show how like the natural airflow would allow for really just natural ventilation as well as natural cooling just by flowing through this open area.
Did you show it on your site plan? Which buildings are these?
These buildings are, well, they would be the row houses there, here. These buildings.
So how many are there?
On here, it's about,
Actually, there's more now because we went back in and edited out all of the single-family housing and replaced it with more row housing, just because it fit the rest of them better. So there are quite a few more row houses than actually shown.
Or this would be the only building that you develop, so in this project, or what's this one?
There's one more that you developed as far as housing typologies, but then the next section is to develop the most important buildings.
something else I was trying to work through but didn't actually end up developing completely that I was confident enough to put it on the presentation. Was I was thinking of having this part of the lattice actually close when it was raining, and it could flow and collect, and use that to kind of run through the different floors and water, irrigate that.
Yeah, that's
space. If I hadn't been able to develop it.
And then the typology I developed, I kind of did two, but they function as one, was a mixed use and penthouse typology. So it's commercial on the first floor, apartments going all the way up to the last level, and on the very top are 2 penthouse units. And
What's the economic level for the homes?
row houses, these are going to be the ones that cover, and then this is what subsidizes it.
So it's gonna be mixed use.
So you're saying the row hut, these are lower income than your apartment?
Yeah, the reason these, at least specifically, the mixed use are gonna be the ones that subsidize the low incomes, because they're at the very heart, these 2 buildings here and here. And since they're in such a nice downtown sort of location, they would actually make people more. And they're really close to the overpass, so it would be a big selling point.
Okay.
So like I said, it's commercial on the lower floor, and I didn't really put much there, that way it's open to whatever kind of shop wants to be put in, like a department store, anything. And then there are 2 principal kinds of floors for the normal apartments. The even floors get almost like a little double balcony, they have this one, and then along with this little inset down here. I got this form by first giving every this piece.
We just went through,
Yeah, do you want us to run through what we talked about already?
yeah, yes, let's start here. Real quick. Well, they gave a presentation, but now they just got the boards, actually, so it wouldn't be too long to, go back to, so they talked about their site.
The concept with our master plan was weaving green space with infrastructure, which is continual green form, a series of natural underpasses and a natural overpass. And what we started to do was try to take that integration of green space with infrastructure, with built space, and integrate it back into what we're designing now, which is the housing typologies. I was looking at a row house where I took, because row houses generally have a backyard pretty much absent from the picture. What I tried to do was take like a 2-story row house, pull it, so the way the second story would be the 3rd story, and put on top of it where the second story was, make that almost a yard area, which could be programmed to their liking. I programmed it for the boards as like an outdoor dining area. That's and something I was considering that I'm working on developing, but didn't fully develop, was the roof lattices over that slanted part.
I didn't just say it was cute, you may have heard that.
What I was thinking of doing with the lattice part over the slanted roof was having those, based on if it's raining, they would close, use that slope to kind of collect the rainwater, to use that to irrigate the planted areas.
And then I just started on mixed use, and the way I developed it, well, I started with just a basic apartment block, a giant rectangle in 3D, and just slowly started punching spaces and allotting for space. And my first major move was to give every unit its own private exterior space. And through an interview with John Michel, he's like our contact in Rwanda, said that some of Rwandans feel almost uneasy when they're on like those slab balconies that just kind of jut out. So I kind of gave them each their own like story below it, so it looks more stable for them. And then that ended up making this facade very flat initially compared with the very punched and almost 3-dimensional other facade. So what I ended up doing was pulling out some spaces, which gave me room to put in a second bedroom in some of the units and just make it a little more useful for people. And on the very top, I developed a penthouse typology. So this would, be the most expensive unit in the building, but it's well worth it. It's the roomiest, and it also includes the roof as like a private exterior for them, which with that they get a garden space and however else they want to program it. I did it as like a basic backyard. It has like a dining table. And another element I worked into the mixed use was a cooling chimney and a drum wall system so that it can pull air from all levels of the building, and then this wall system here would heat up during the day, and then that would help pull out air through the building and keep it naturally ventilated. And another,
You point that out on your plan.
yeah. These two right here, one is actually an elevator shaft, but since it would be open to every floor, it could also be used. So these two throughout the plant would pull air up throughout the building. And another benefit of the way that I divide this up is that every unit's gonna have cross ventilation, because they all have windows on two sides of the building, so that would further allow for more natural ventilation. And the way I applied the green weaving concept, as you can see, was to take vertical green panels and have them in a almost random pattern going up and down the side of the building. And then wherever they terminate, they would almost fold into the unit's balcony, and that can be seen on the plan as well.
When you say green, you don't just mean color.
Not in color, they're
It's like-
planted, they're like a living wall system. And so like if it terminates here, it would fold in, or if you have two terminate, you would have them both fold in, and each one would have their own little planted area. It could be grass, it could be wildflowers, it's up to them. And so that's how I integrated it, and I integrated it further with having the green roof system for the penthouses. And I also ended up using that as a way to deal with runoff and water, where the water would trickle down through the panels. And then one idea I never got quite fully developing was either some sort of drain system or spigot, where wherever they stop, especially at the terraces, how it would get from here to here. And so I was still working with that.
So you talked